have this huge monetized hole in our lives that will never be filled. We miss her every single day.
He was a bachelor with a killer smile.
He was good looking. The ladies couldn't resist him.
Until one lucky lady took him off the market.
They were happy together. They became very serious about their relationship.
But a horrible crime cut their romance short.
The victim had been shot in the head.
He was only 31 years old, just beginning life.
To find his killer, detectives will have to sift through multiple motives.
Who would want to do something like this? Did he have a beef with anyone?
I'm not saying he was perfect.
There were allegations of abuse.
There was a criminal record.
As detectives dive into the case, they will discover one person willing to do the unthinkable.
I saw the person who wanted him shot.
They were hoping the alligators would eat him.
I didn't know nobody could be that cold-blooded and that evil.
March 2nd, 2001, Nassau County, Florida. It's a mild Friday afternoon on Lofton Creek, a popular fishing spot just half an hour north of Jacksonville.
It's semi-rural, really good place to go fishing. A lot of guys go there and they camp out and hang out there.
One fisherman is waiting for his next bite as something in the distance catches his eye.
What the?
The fisherman races for a closer look. As he comes to the embankment, he makes a gruesome discovery.
He saw a human body in the water.
There was some bed covering that was wrapped around the body.
The fisherman immediately calls 911.
He waited for emergency officials to come.
Within minutes, the creek is swarming with police. At first glance, it's obvious to detectives the victim died as a result of foul play.
There was a gunshot wound to the head.
There was a little stippling, so they could tell that it was somewhat pretty close to him.
It seemed the killer had shot the victim, wrapped him up, and dumped him into the water.
At night, because it's not heavily populated, it would be an ideal place to dispose of someone.
They made a determination that the body possibly had been dumped there. It was not the actual crime scene itself.
If that's the case, then where did the victim come from? Who was responsible, and why? Before those questions can be answered, detectives need to identify the body.
They roll the prints, and once they roll the prints, he was identified rather quickly.
The prints would soon reveal the victim as 31-year-old Paul Sheely. Navy veteran Paul Sheely shared a close bond with his family.
It was just me and him, mostly. Running together, hanging together.
He was like a mama's boy. He'd come home and call me to let me know what was going on. He never missed 2 days of checking to see how I was.
After his stint in the Navy, Paul had settled back into his hometown of Jacksonville, Florida.
He did 4 years in there. Went to school for a little while, did a lot of side jobs, bringing in money.
While Paul wavered over which career path he wanted to take next, he had no problem finding romance.
He's the latest, man. Women loved him.
He had a big personality. I'm talking about full of life. He was the life of the party, always liked to go out.
However, after years of playing the field, by age 31, Paul had several children and decided to put his bachelor days on hold to focus on being a good dad.
He took care of his kids. He was there for them.
It's always around for my birthday, help him hang out, whatever, do out there. I'll go with him for the weekend.
Paul wanted to give his kids the world. There was just one problem. He found it difficult to make an honest living.
He was a guy who was just out there hustling, as they would say, street hustling.
Though Paul still sought legal employment, he was able to make ends meet on the street.
He would just always make sure that I had whatever I needed or whatever I wanted, you know what I mean, as far as me, you know, as a kid. So I was spoiled.
With his exes out of the picture, Paul longed for someone he could share his life with. And soon he found that in daycare worker Alicia Lee.
Is your kids?
Yes. She had 2 boys and a little girl.
They're beautiful. It's like their mama.
They kind of immediately clicked.
Though Alicia wasn't Paul's typical type, he was drawn to her.
She was very quiet. Went to church, went to the daycare. She was good spirit. She was fine to be around.
The two began dating, and things heated up quite quickly.
They couldn't get enough of each other.
Paul made her feel like a woman.
Eventually, the two moved in together.
They were really happy together as a family.
He was a pretty good stepdad, so to speak, with them. Helped them sometimes, schoolwork, stuff like that.
Paul's kids would come to visit on the weekends, and it would be like one big happy family.
I would come over and play with her kids. He took care of her kids like they were his kids.
Everything seemed to have been working out very well for them.
But just when the couple's future looked brightest, tragedy struck.
He was found in the river with a gunshot wound to the head at close range.
They were able to ID him from his fingerprints in the system.
Turns out Paul Sheely had a criminal record. Detectives wonder if Paul's illegal dealings could have gotten him killed.
He's kind of flashy. You know, he carries a lot of cash on him.
If you're known to have a lot of money, now it opens another door. Maybe you were shot and robbed.
All my love scattered everywhere.
When he looked at me, I just melted.
Dreams so sweet turned into a nightmare.
I didn't suspect that he was a straight-out killer demon. I knew I was in trouble.
I've been going crazy.
That's a hell of a price to pay. Just for one damn man.
Handsome ladies' man Paul Sheely seemed to have finally met the one. And 28-year-old mother of 3, Alicia Lee.
It was happy. He took care of home. He took care of the family. Took care of her kids, too.
Alicia and Paul were building a life together. They'd become a family.
But on the morning of March 2nd, 2001, their family is torn apart when detectives find Paul's body washed up along the bank of Lofton Creek.
He had been found dumped in the water with a gunshot wound to his head.
The wound pattern, according to the medical examiner, was comparable to a .38 or .380 type caliber weapon.
Detectives head to Paul's family home to give the notification to his mother, Emily Sheely.
Death notifications are some of the worst things.
Miss Sheely? I'm Detective Nelson.
Can I help you?
When you show up, people are really anxious and what's going on.
It's about your son, Paul.
What about my son?
Sorry to inform you. Your son was found dead today.
Oh, my God. Paul is...
They came to the house and they told me that they found my son.
She was devastated.
After giving her a few minutes to process the news, detectives sit down with Emily.
His mother regained her composure and she helped us with some information.
When was the last time you saw Paul?
I talked to him on Saturday.
That kind of helped us put it in the window of when this may have actually happened.
Did you know he was missing?
I called him on Monday when I hadn't heard from him. His girlfriend
assured me that everything was okay.
She was able to give them the name of his girlfriend that he lived with, Alicia Lee.
She said he was out of town, and she would tell him to call me as soon as she got back.
Detectives asked Emily if she knew of any problems between her son and Alicia.
Do you think she could have did this?
Oh, no. She's a good woman, church lady, 3 kids. They love each other.
Later that afternoon, detectives drop by Alicia's home, hoping she can shed some light on their relationship.
Thanks for agreeing to meet with us today. I know this is hard.
I can't believe he's gone.
Paul's mother has told her that he's dead. She's distraught at the news.
Would you mind answering some questions for us?
I just want to...
Would you mind answering some questions for us?
I just want to find out who did this.
The focus was, when was the last time you saw him?
Alicia tells detectives she last saw Paul on Sunday morning, February 25th, 5 days prior.
He had gone out that night and come back in real early.
Alicia was preparing to go to church.
Alicia says Paul was a bit of a night owl, so she didn't think much of him going straight to sleep after coming in.
She left with the kids to go to church and left him in bed.
Did you see him again after that?
No, I went over to a friend's house after church, but I wasn't expecting to see him.
It's not unusual for Paul to leave and be gone for a few days.
He basically lived that bad boy lifestyle. He was a good dude, but he was out there in the streets.
Alicia says she knew Paul was into some illegal things, but she never really questioned it.
He would leave town and come back with money.
Did he say when he was coming back?
He was supposed to be back tomorrow, but I'm not sure what happened, unless...
Alicia explains that a few items had been stolen from their home on Monday while she was at work.
She included some of his property as being stolen. His jewelry, several pair of high-dollar tennis shoes.
Alicia says she had filed a report, but nothing much had come of it. Detectives make a note to look into the robbery angle, but that's when Alicia shares another detail about her relationship with Paul.
Well, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but he was seeing someone else.
She had heard that he was probably messing around.
Alicia says she answered his phone one evening, and another woman was on the line.
Babe, are you there?
Babe, who is this? Hello, this is his girlfriend. Who is this?
There was drama between them in a heated discussion.
Alicia tells detectives the other woman was 20-year-old Aisha James, and she made it clear she wanted Paul all to herself.
Once she knew where they were caught, she told me to leave him. Or else.
Do you think she killed your boyfriend?
She threatened me. This is just all so crazy.
Based on the fact that she had words with this lady, it may have opened the door to someone else who may be responsible.
They need to contact this person to see when was the last time she may have seen him alive.
As detectives conclude their interview, they ask Alicia a tough question.
When you found out that your boyfriend was cheating on you, how did that make you feel?
What do you mean?
Perhaps you killed Paul when you learned of the affair.
Absolutely not. Paul wasn't perfect by any means, but I loved him.
She seemed genuinely upset. She was cooperative and did not appear to be a suspect.
Detectives ask if they can look around the couple's home for anything suspicious.
She immediately consents to allow them to search the house.
In looking around, you look for things that out of the ordinary, any signs of some activity of violence.
As detectives make their way through Paul and Alicia's bedroom, something catches their eye.
Does Paul own any guns?
A couple.
She said he was known to carry 2 .380 handguns.
That was consistent with what the medical examiner said about the murder weapon.
You know where he keeps them?
Yeah, in here. But I don't think they'll be in here. He usually takes them with him when he goes out of town.
After an extensive search, detectives confirm the guns are not on the premises.
If Paul hadn't taken the guns with him, maybe whoever had stolen the jewelry and shoes had stolen the guns too.
That, or could his church-going girlfriend have something to do with it? Or perhaps his alleged mistress. Either way, detectives have a theory on the murder weapon.
It was entirely possible that Paul could have been murdered with his own gun.
With no time to lose, detectives head back to the station. They work on verifying Alicia's alibi and tracking down Paul's mistress, Aisha James. But little do detectives know, one woman from Paul's life would soon blow the case wide open.
All my love scattered everywhere.
When he looked at me, I just melted.
Dreams so sweet turned into a nightmare.
I didn't suspect that he was a straight-out killer demon. I knew I was in trouble.
I've been going crazy.
That's a hell of a price to pay. Just for one damn man.
Gun-related homicides are on the rise in the United States and currently account for 70% of all homicides. The risk of a homicide occurring within the home more than doubles when there is access to a firearm. It's been 24 hours since 31-year-old Paul Sheely was found murdered in a Florida creek. It seems their victim had a girlfriend he lived with and someone else on the side.
He had been allegedly seeing another woman named Aisha.
Hello, this is his girlfriend. Who is this?
Detectives wonder if Paul's romantic entanglements could have gotten him killed. They reach out to friends of Paul's girlfriend Alicia to verify her alibi.
She went to church, then she went over to her friend's house.
As they wait to hear back, they bring in 20-year-old Aisha James, Paul's alleged mistress.
His girlfriend Alicia had claimed that the two got into an argument over the phone, and Aisha had threatened her.
Thanks for coming in. We're here to talk to you today about your relationship with Paul Sheely.
Why? What's wrong? What's going on?
I'm afraid I have some bad news.
He was like, Miss James, they found his body. He's dead. I just cried. That was the most heartbreaking thing I ever went through.
Aisha's reaction to the news seems genuine, and it doesn't take detectives long to discover why.
Just discovered that Mr. Sheely, he was having a child with Miss James.
I said, I don't know what am I going to do. I'm pregnant with this man's baby.
Once Aisha regains her composure, she opens up to detectives about her relationship with Paul.
How long did you know Paul?
Just a little over a year. Me and Paul, we met when I was working. One day, him and his friends walked into the store.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you tell me, how do you think this looks?
He was a ladies' man, and, he was a looker, and he flirted from time to time with other women.
After we finished, he was like, can I have your number? I was like, sure. That's how it started.
Though the two had an obvious connection, they decided to keep things casual.
We never officially became girlfriend and boyfriend. We just became intimate, friends with benefits, for about a year.
Aisha tells detectives she couldn't resist Paul's charm.
I'm not proud of it. I knew he had a girlfriend.
Paul was honest with Aisha about his relationship status from the start.
Coming into the situation, he was like, I have a lady, and we live together. Paul told me that she was more like a quiet, reserved type of person. She really didn't go anywhere but work back home, and take care of the kids.
Aisha says although their relationship wasn't serious, after she told Paul about the baby, he was on board to help.
He said, once you have the baby, I'll be there for you, and I'll help you take care of the baby. It's no problem.
Detectives wonder if the news of the baby had changed Aisha's hope for the relationship.
Perhaps with the new baby coming, she wanted to get his girlfriend out of the way.
He never said something to you about leaving her?
No.
And you never asked him to leave her?
No, it wasn't like that.
And you never threatened Alicia?
No, it was the other way around. I called his phone one day, and I asked him, and she threatened me on the telephone. She said, if I see you, I'm gonna catch you, I'm gonna get you. She was very angry and aggressive.
But you didn't say anything to her?
I said something to her, but I never threatened her. I did snap back at her. We argued back and forth a little bit, but it wasn't nothing major.
Aisha admits that she's had some disdain with Alicia. but she would never murder anyone or do any kind of serious bodily harm to anyone.
Aisha's story is the opposite of Alicia's version of the phone call.
Alicia had said that Aisha was threatening her.
Detectives wonder which woman is telling the truth. Aisha says after the phone call, she continued to see Paul.
I just took it as a grain of salt because when I already knew walking into that situation that him and her was together.
When was the last time you saw Paul?
Saturday night.
The 24th?
Yeah, Saturday night and early Sunday morning.
They had gone out to this nightclub, and after being at the club, they kind of did their thing, and he stayed pretty much the rest of the night there.
We spent the night together, and we just sat up and talked all night long.
Detectives note that Aisha's story lines up with Alicia's, that Paul had come home Sunday morning after being out all night.
Alicia told police that the last time she saw him was on a Sunday when she was preparing to go to church. Paul was asleep in the bed when she left.
Aisha also confirms that Paul was planning to go out of town.
He was like, I'm going to be doing some things for a couple of days, don't call my phone. So I was like, okay, I respect his wishes.
She, like Alicia, knew not to ask too many questions about what Paul was into.
However, detectives suspect Paul never made it out of town, and that his two-timing ways had pushed one woman over the edge. But which woman? As detectives circle around their two suspects, another woman from Paul's past will jump front and center.
Me and Alicia had our problems about Paul, but if I had to take a guess, maybe Natalie. She seemed like she had it out for him.
Natalie?
Yeah, his other baby mom.
Scattered everywhere.
When he looked at me, I just melted.
Dreams so sweet turned into a nightmare.
I didn't suspect that he was a straight-out killer demon. I knew I was in trouble.
I've been going crazy.
That's a hell of a price to pay. Just for one damn man.
48 hours into the murder investigation of 31-year-old Paul Sheely, detectives are at a standstill.
They had two women in Paul's life that were basically pointing the finger at each other.
Alicia said Paul's mistress had threatened her, but Aisha rebuts those claims and said she was the one who was escalating things.
But it seems Alicia and Aisha aren't the only ones who may have been upset with Paul.
Natalie?
Yeah, his other baby mom. She seemed to have it out for him.
It was discovered that Paul had several children from other women, and one of those women in particular did not get along with Paul.
Detectives bring in the woman in question, 21-year-old Natalie Brown.
It was no secret that her and Paul frequently argued.
Detectives ask Natalie about their relationship, and she holds nothing back.
Look, we had a lot of issues. And of course, feelings were there, because he's the father of my child, but that was it.
Type issues.
Money. Always money.
This picture is a little different than the one everyone else has painted of Paul.
He was known to be a good father and took care of his kids.
Detectives wonder if something more is going on.
When was the last time you talked to him?
Tuesday, the 27th. Our son had a doctor appointment on Wednesday, and I needed money for that.
This piques detectives' interests. Up until now, no one claims to have spoken to Paul past the 25th.
They were now thinking perhaps Natalie was the last person to speak with him before his murder.
What happened on that phone call?
Nothing. We fought about money, and I hung up, as usual.
Did you go see him after that?
What? No.
Did you know about Paul's girlfriends?
Paul always had ladies around. That ain't nothing new.
Detectives ask Natalie point blank if she's responsible for Paul's murder.
Look, I didn't do this. Paul and I were always arguing, but I would never kill the father of my son.
Natalie holds steadfast and maintains her innocence.
With nothing to hold her on, they let her go.
With 3 women now in the mix, detectives pull Paul's phone records, hoping to get to the bottom of things. But it seems they directly conflict with Natalie's statement.
Going back over the records, we looked at the dates, and she tried to say that she had talked with him long after we were able to show that there was no communication.
Records show Paul's last phone conversation was on Sunday the 25th, the date both Aisha and Alicia say they last saw Paul.
From that day forward, there was nothing outgoing.
Now detectives want to know, was Natalie mixed up about the dates, or could she be hiding something?
We strongly looked at her as a good suspect.
The records give an indication of when Paul went missing, but do nothing to help narrow down the suspect pool.
You're at that point in your investigation where you checked everything, you double-checked, you've gone back, and it becomes a little frustrating because we're at a standstill.
As the weeks roll by, the case goes cold.
There were no leads coming in. There was nothing new that they could investigate.
2 years pass, and Paul's case remains unsolved. Finally, in February of 2003, detectives get a call that will change everything.
Detective Nelson speaking.
I think I know who dumped Paul Sheely's body.
The tip finally breathes some life into the case.
The caller is a man named Lawrence Calloway. Within the hour, detectives have him in their office for a formal interview.
Thanks for coming in today, Lawrence.
No problem. I read that article and I knew how to speak up.
Jacksonville puts out what is known as the Victim's Advocate. And in it, it featured unsolved murders, and he went through it and read it and saw Sheely's information, and he felt pretty compelled to come forward.
Lawrence tells detectives it all started 2 years ago.
Well, my former roommate and her boyfriend was in the kitchen when I overheard them talking about the body.
They're talking quite openly, and they discuss getting rid of the body.
And they said they wrapped them up in a shower curtain.
It's a detail that had never been released to the public.
He's hitting the points that only the people involved know.
Do you think they killed him?
No. It seemed like they were just helping someone dump him.
Why didn't you come to us with this sooner?
I was nervous, and I didn't want to get in trouble. Wasn't totally sure what I heard, but after reading that article, I know it was Paul they were talking about.
Eventually, I guess it eats at him, and he tells us how they were instrumental in helping dispose of the body.
Lawrence gives detectives the names Patricia Bryant and Danielle Reddick. While detectives didn't recognize the names from Paul's case, they were familiar with Danielle.
I kind of knew Mr. Reddick from the street. I knew him. He has a pretty lengthy record.
Detectives had always theorized that Paul's love life had gotten him killed. But with Danielle's name being dropped, now they weren't so sure.
Perhaps he had fallen in with the wrong people.
As detectives pursue their new lead, they'll uncover a calculated and ruthless plan that brings everything to light.
This case had been cold for 2 years, and all of a sudden, the police get not just a tip, but a big break in the case.
February 2003. After 2 long years, detectives have received a tip regarding the murder of 31-year-old Paul Sheely.
The tipster was named Lawrence Calloway, and he had information about the body that was not released to the public.
Lawrence alleges that he overheard his former roommate, Patricia Bryant, and her boyfriend, Danielle Reddick, talking about Paul's body.
He's talking about how the body was disposed of.
Detectives look into the 2 names Lawrence provides.
When police get that information, they begin to do a background check on these 2 individuals.
Danielle had a criminal past, and detectives were able to find him rather quickly.
He was in jail for an unrelated armed robbery.
They go to the jail and they speak with him.
When detectives sit down with Danielle, they cut right to the chase.
You know Paul Sheely? No, I didn't really know him. Do you know the person who shot Paul Sheely? No. He was like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Detectives push harder.
I'm like, Danielle, yes, you do. We're here and stuff, and I know you helped dispose of this body. And I know your girlfriend helped dispose of this body. And you didn't kill anybody. You might want to talk.
With seemingly no choice, Danielle starts to open up.
Danielle told detectives that 2 months before the murder, a woman had offered him money to kill Paul.
What did you tell her? I told her no. Then I went through it.
According to Danielle, he presented another idea.
He said he offered a suggestion to her to just poison him. She tried that, and she told him that it's not working.
Danielle says on February 25th, the woman took matters into her own hands.
Danielle says he was with Patricia on Sunday morning when they heard a knock on the door.
According to Danielle, a woman According to Danielle, a woman had come over to his girlfriend's house with a gun.
She is at the house, and she has said that it's done.
As detectives have long suspected, it seems Paul's penchant for juggling multiple women had gotten him killed. But by which woman?
They didn't know if it was the girlfriend he lived with, or his pregnant girl on the side, or even his estranged baby's mom. It could have been any of them.
When pressed, Danielle finally reveals the mastermind behind the plot to kill and dispose of Paul Shealy.
Who is she?
Alicia was Paul's girlfriend who he had lived with.
She was a mother of 3, active in the church. It was just shocking.
According to Danielle, Alicia was friends with his girlfriend, Patricia.
They worked together in the daycare of all places. And Miss Lee was complaining to his girlfriend about Mr. Shealy.
Danielle says Alicia was desperate to get him out of her life. So when the attempted poisoning didn't work, Alicia showed up at his girlfriend's house claiming that she had shot Paul.
Danielle's story was consistent with both Paul's missing guns and the suspected murder weapon.
Oh, what did you do?
I had to.
Danielle says that once he realized Paul was dead, he and Patricia drove Alicia back home.
They go back over to the house where Mr. Shealy's body is.
To detectives, Danielle's story suggested that Alicia shot Paul in his sleep.
I need you to help me get rid of him.
No, you did this. You made that mess.
He's like, well, you know, what's in it for me?
Alicia gave him everything that she later reported stolen.
Detectives suspect Alicia had reported the item stolen to throw police off her trail. But according to Danielle, Paul's property wasn't all he was promised. Danielle tells detectives he agreed to help, and they moved Paul's body to the bathroom. Then the trio waited until nightfall to dispose of the body.
Eventually, her kids came home, and the adults were just acting normal, like there wasn't a dead body in the bathroom.
Danielle states that once the kids were asleep, the 3, along with one of Danielle's friends, Robert Williams, hatched a plan to dump Paul's body.
Like Danielle, Robert's name was already familiar to Jacksonville police.
Danielle says Robert knew exactly what to do.
Robert just snatched her shower window and laid it like a little bit over the toilet, a little bit over the tub. And we just put the picked it up, put it on that, and just lifted it up and went out.
Danielle tells detectives he, Robert, and Patricia then drove the half hour to Amelia Island to dump the body.
It was Robert's idea to throw the victim in the creek. There are alligators out there. He knows that area. So he's like, let's take him out there and they'll get rid of all the evidence. We'll be scot-free. So the gators will be.
After dumping Paul into the creek, they got rid of the murder weapon. Danielle says Alicia stayed home with her kids so she could clean up. Danielle's story fits with the facts detectives know, but is it the truth?
They were especially suspicious of Daniel's claim that he wasn't the shooter, that Alicia pulled the trigger herself.
Before confronting Alicia, detectives speak with Patricia Bryant and Robert Williams separately to see if they can confirm Danielle's version of events.
Both of them refused to speak to police at that time.
Detectives figure there's only one way to determine the truth. It's time to talk to Alicia.
They're armed with a description of events, a timeline, but what they need from Alicia is a confession.
I know this is not something easy to talk about. It's not something that's real comfortable.
Her back is against the wall.
But as Alicia tells her version of events, it seems things may not be as cut and dry as detectives once suspected.
There were things going on behind closed doors that no one else knew about.
Normally, when you're interviewing someone and they're thinking, for the most part, you're making this up. Some of your people, suspects, think you're making stuff up or you're just saying things. My strategy was have them all where you can talk with them all at the same time. And occasionally let one of them see the other so they'll know that you dig it up.
Two years after Paul Sheely's body was found in Lofton Creek, detectives believe they finally have his killer in their sights.
A known criminal named Danielle Reddick told police that he and some friends had helped move Paul's body for his girlfriend, Alicia Lee.
He talked about how they disposed of the body and some things that were pretty key.
But to get the full story, detectives need to speak with Alicia Lee to get her version of events.
We began to reveal to her some of the stuff about the movement of the body. Finally, we said, just come clean.
He finally got her to crack. She broke down, she spilled everything.
Alicia says she felt like she had no choice. She wanted rid of Paul. According to Alicia, Paul came home the morning of February 25th after being out all night. Alicia says she made the kids breakfast, and as they ate, she decided this was her chance.
I told them to stay up front. Then I went back got the gun.
This is a chance that she has to kill him while he's asleep.
Alicia says she used a silencer on the gun so she wouldn't scare the children. Then she walked over to the side of the bed and took aim.
The victim never knew what hit him.
And after you shot him, for some reason there was a towel on the floor, and I picked it up, wrapped the gun in the towel, got my purse, and I ran out the room.
Alicia says once she was in the kitchen, she hurried her children out the door.
Told my kids, come on, let's go. And then we got in the car and left.
She took the kids to church as though nothing had happened.
I don't know if you can get any colder than that.
Alicia says after she dropped off the kids, she went over to Patricia's home to get help.
She didn't seem upset. She walked you through everything that happened and showed no emotion, showed no remorse. That's unthinkable.
Detectives ask Alicia why she did it, and her answer is surprising.
She claims that the reason she did it was because she was tired of him cheating on her, and she was tired of all of the verbal and physical abuse that he was administering.
A picture that she painted on him, that he was abusive and all that.
I got bruised up pretty bad and beaten in the stomach pretty bad.
She just had enough, and it wasn't enough that he be gone. She wanted him dead.
Detectives wonder if this was a case of domestic abuse, or if Alicia is just trying to justify her actions. Regardless, they book Alicia Lee for the murder of Paul Sheely.
I was very shocked. She didn't come off as, a person who would do such a thing.
Never in a million years I would have suspected that. I'm like, oh my God, my heart dropped.
Alicia's co-conspirators, Danielle Reddick, Patricia Bryant, and Robert Williams, are all charged as well.
They were charged with accessory after the fact.
Eventually, all three co-defendants take plea deals for their role in the crime.
Each one of them got anywhere between 3 to 5 years.
And it's crazy. He's got taps on the wrist.
My feeling is you really and truly is almost as guilty as the person that pulled the trigger.
As for Paul's killer, Alicia Lee, she also agrees to a plea.
She pled guilty to second-degree murder and received 30 years.
For Paul's family, Alicia's punishment is a harsh blow.
She come out in 20 for good behavior.
My dad doesn't get to do that.
He should not really ever have gotten out of jail.
As for Alicia's domestic abuse claims, none was ever substantiated. And while the family admits Paul never should have cheated on Alicia, he didn't deserve to die.
My son was a loving person. He wasn't, by no means perfect.
Mom, you gotta give us one more.
But he tried to make friends with everybody he met.
She could have said enough and left this man.
Because of Alicia's choices, her children have lost their mother.
They live with family members now.
As for Paul's family, the real tragedy is that his kids are forever deprived of their father.
It's surreal that he's not here. Not only for my son, but for his other kids as well.
They miss him and everything.
I can never just pick up the phone and call my dad. I can never just go see my dad. It hurts a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it hurts a lot.
She was a hard-working young woman with big dreams for the future.
She wanted to be a successful businesswoman.
She was very ambitious.
She was just full of life, full of potential.
Until it all came to a sudden, shocking end.
My nephew texted me, "Have you heard from my mom?"
We didn't really know what was going on.
We get a knock on the door from 2 detectives.
Can we come in? They told us that they found her.
Did a dark secret drive her to do the unthinkable?
The gunshot wound was to the left side of the head.
The gun was lying at her feet.
It appears to be a suicide.
No, this can't be true.
I never thought this would go on.
Or did someone else pull the trigger?
My sister would have never, ever, ever done this.
Who is that? I would not believe that. I just wouldn't.
It's one thing to know something, but it's another to prove it.
Called the police during an argument. She told them Maikos was storing guns in her unit and she didn't feel safe. The police confiscated them, including a .22 caliber revolver. But Maikos had renewed his license and picked up the guns on January 24th. 3 days later, Joyce Brannon was dead. They searched Maikos's car. Under the seat, they found a shell casing, a .22 caliber. They found a box of ammunition that matched the bullets in Joyce's body. And most damning of all, they found a handwritten note. The note contained the address of the Bethany Evangelical Lutheran Church. It contained the hours of the Sunday services. It was a map for a murder. Epilogue: The High Cost of Faith. Dr. Ronald Maikos was convicted of health care fraud and the murder of Joyce Brannon in May 2005. For the fraud, he got 6 years. For the murder, he was sentenced to death. He now sits on death row in Terre Haute, Indiana, the same prison that once held Timothy McVeigh. The TIG case is the Baptist Foundation of Arizona and the doctor of Lincoln would share a haunting symmetry. They both exploited the most sacred thing we have, our trust. One used the church to steal life savings. The other used a medical license to steal a life. In Phoenix, Bill Anderson died not long after the trial, his heart finally giving out from the stress. Robert Shaw still struggles to find his way back to a relationship with God. The foundation took away our faith, he says. In Chicago, the members of the Bethany Evangelical Lutheran Church still talk about Joyce Brannon. They call her a hero. She was a woman who stood up for the truth in a basement, even when she knew a monster was coming for her. The lesson of American greed is a bitter one. In the desert, watch out for the mirage. In the doctor's office, watch out for the smile. And in the church, remember that while God may be watching, so is the man sitting in the front row, quoting the Bible and eyeing your checkbook. Trust, it seems, is the most expensive thing you will ever own. The Architecture of Deceit, a novel of stolen lives and highway shadows. Prologue, The Sweet Smell of Death. The air in the Garden Grove apartment was thick, not with the smell of decay, but with something sickeningly sweet, the scent of acetone, of a body consuming itself from the inside out. Officer Miller nudged the door open with his shoulder, the wood splintering against the frame. He didn't need to draw his weapon. The silence was absolute, the kind of silence that only exists when a heart has stopped trying. He found John Mackenzie in the kitchen. The young man, only 29, was sprawled across the linoleum, his skin a translucent, waxy gray. In his cold, stiff fingers, Mackenzie clutched a crumpled piece of paper, a prescription for an anti-vertigo drug. Dizzy, the report would later say. The patient complained of dizziness. Miller looked at the kitchen table. There was a half-empty glass of water. Thirst, excessive, unquenchable thirst. The body's desperate plea for a dilution that would never come. John Mackenzie hadn't been dizzy because of a viral infection or an inner ear imbalance. He had been dying of a 1,200 blood sugar level, his blood turning into a thick, syrupy poison, while a man in a white coat told him to take a pill for his balance and go home. 40 miles away, at the Pacific Southwest Medical Group, the man who wrote that prescription was laughing at a joke in the break room. He was charming. He was brilliant. He was Dr. Gerald Barnes. Except he wasn't. Chapter 1, The Physician's Mask. Rick D'Alessandro liked his boss. In the late 70s, Orange County was a place of sunshine and upward mobility, and Dr. Gerald Barnes seemed to embody both. As a physician's assistant, Rick saw the doctor as a mentor. Barnes was a likable little guy, as Rick would often describe him, entertaining, engaging, and possessed of a bedside manner that made patients feel like they were the only people in the world. But on the morning of December 27, 1979, the charm curdled. Rick sat at his desk, staring at a lab report that had just been faxed over. He blinked, thinking it was a typo. John Mackenzie, glucose, 1,200 milligrams DL. A normal reading was 80 to 100. At 1,200, a human being isn't just sick. They are a walking medical emergency. They are on the precipice of a ketoacidotic coma. Rick's heart hammered against his ribs. He remembered Mackenzie from the day before the weight loss, the dry mouth, the way his eyes seemed sunken into his skull. "Where's Barnes?" Rick barked, standing up so fast his chair hit the wall. "Day off," the receptionist replied, not looking up from her magazine. He said he needed some air. Rick didn't wait. He grabbed the chart and started dialing. He called Mackenzie's home. No answer. He called the emergency contact and ex-wife. She hadn't seen him. He called a second number. Nothing. The panic in Rick's gut turned into a cold certainty. He called the Garden Grove Police Department. "Check the address," he pleaded. "Please, he's in a crisis." An hour later, the phone rang back. It was the police. John Mackenzie was dead. The grief was immediate, but the suspicion followed it like a shadow. Rick couldn't shake the image of Mackenzie's face. It was a classic presentation. A first-year med student would have flagged it. How could a seasoned medical director like Gerald Barnes, a man who saw 40 patients a day, a man who commanded the respect of the entire clinic, miss a textbook case of acute diabetes? The following Monday, Rick arrived at the clinic early. He watched Barnes walk in, wearing a crisp lab coat, his gait confident. "Morning, Rick," Barnes chirped, heading for the coffee pot. Tragic about the Mackenzie boy, isn't it? Some things are just out of our hands. Rick felt a surge of nausea. Out of our hands? He waited until Barnes was in a consultation. Then he did something he had never done before. He sat at the office computer and pulled the personnel file. He wrote down the medical license number. Then he called the medical board in Sacramento. "I need to verify a license," Rick said, his voice trembling. "Dr. Gerald Barnes." "One moment," the clerk said. A few minutes later, the fax machine in the corner of the office began to hum. It spat out a sheet of paper. Rick picked it up. His breath hitched. The name on the paper was Gerald Barnes. The license was real. The credentials were impeccable. But the photograph attached to the file was not the man in the next room. The man in the photograph was older, with different features, a different jawline, and the address listed was in Stockton, 400 miles to the north. Rick looked through the glass partition at the doctor currently palpating a patient's abdomen. The man he had worked with for years, the man who had been elevated to medical director, was a ghost, a phantom. He was a fraud. Chapter 2. The pharmacist from Chicago. The man the world knew as Dr. Gerald Barnes was actually Gerald Barnbaum. To understand the man, one had to understand the theater. In college, Barnbaum hadn't been a pre-med student. He had been a thespian. He loved the stage. He loved the way a costume could change the way people looked at you. He loved the power of a script. But his parents wanted a professional in the family. So he became a pharmacist. It was close enough to medicine to satisfy the ego, but it lacked the godlike status of the MD. In Chicago, Barnbaum ran a pharmacy, but the role of a simple pill pusher wasn't enough. He began a Medicaid scam, a complex web of overbilling and phantom prescriptions. He was caught, of course. In 1975, though a jury acquitted him of the criminal charges, the medical board saw through the performance. They revoked his pharmacy license. For most men, this would be rock bottom. For Gerald Barnbaum, it was just the end of the first act. He moved to California. He needed a new character. He began scouring medical directories, looking for a twin, someone with a similar name, someone whose life he could slip into like a second skin. He found him in Stockton, Dr. Gerald Barnes, an orthopedic surgeon. Barnbaum's genius was in its simplicity. He called the medical board, posing as the real Dr. Barnes. "I'm opening a new clinic in Los Angeles," he told them, his voice smooth and authoritative. "I've misplaced my wall certificate. Could you send a duplicate to my new office?" Because he knew the jargon, because he spoke with the effortless entitlement of a physician, they didn't ask questions. They mailed the license. With that piece of paper, the transformation was complete. Gerald Barnbaum ceased to exist. Dr. Gerald Barnes was born. For the next several years, he played the part to perfection. He studied medical journals to keep up with the dialogue. He learned how to fake a physical exam. He mastered the art of the gaze, that look of intense, caring focus that doctors use to reassure the frightened. He was seeing 30 to 40 patients a day. He was making a six-figure salary. He was a pillar of the community. But he was a doctor who didn't know how to treat a disease. He was a surgeon who couldn't cut. He was an actor who had forgotten that in the real world, if you miss a cue, someone actually dies. Chapter 3, The Interstate Shadows. While Barnbaum was perfecting his medical masquerade in California, another man was preparing to take the stage in the Midwest. David Brankel sat in his black BMW, the engine idling near the I-65 interchange in Indianapolis. He adjusted his fishing Hattaboonie hat, they called it, and checked his mustache in the rearview mirror. It was fake, glued on with the precision of a man who cared about the details. Brankel didn't think of himself as a criminal. He thought of himself as an entrepreneur whose capital just happened to be locked in other people's vaults. He looked at the map on his dashboard. He liked interstates. They were the veins of the country, fast-moving and anonymous. If you stayed near the interchanges, you were never more than 60 seconds away from a high-speed disappearance. His targets were specific: banks inside grocery stores, bank marts. They were small, usually staffed by only 1 or 2 people, and the security was a joke compared to the standalone branches. People were distracted by the smell of rotisserie chicken and the rattle of shopping carts. No one noticed a man in a tan cover all walking toward the teller counter. Brankel reached into his pocket and pulled out a note. It was printed in neat block letters. "This is a hold-up. I have a gun. Be calm. Both drawers. Be quiet. Go home alive." He liked the "go home alive" part. It added a touch of drama, a hint of stakes. He stepped out of the car. The air was crisp. He walked into the Winn-Dixie with the practiced ease of a man going to buy a gallon of milk. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He approached the counter, handed over the note, and waited. 3 minutes later, he was back in the BMW, $6,000 heavier, merging into the flow of traffic on the I-65. By the time the police arrived at the grocery store, Brankel would be 30 miles away, humming a tune, thinking about his next business meeting. He was the Interstate Bank Mart Bandit, IBM for short, and he was just getting started. Chapter 4, The Two Lives of David Brankel. David Brankel was a man of many headquarters. In Bloomington, Indiana, he was a sophisticated businessman. He rented an office from Phil and Bonnie Sperry, a space he claimed was the nerve center for his company, ACR Architecture, Construction, and, well, he never quite said what the R stood for. David was impeccably dressed. Phil Sperry would later recall. He was cool. He was smooth. He always had the right response. Brankel had a way of making people feel like they were part of something big. He approached Bonnie Sperry with a vision, trade secrets, a high-end interior design firm. He used the Sperry name, a name that meant something in Bloomington, to open doors. He went to Sullivan's clothing store, ran up a $1,700 bill, paid it off instantly to build trust, and then opened a house account. He walked out with $8,000 worth of designer suits. He never paid a dime of it back. But the dapper businessman in the suits was a ghost. From Sunday to Wednesday, Brankel lived in a modest rented house in Vincennes, Indiana, with his wife and their young son. He was a family man. He played with his boy in the yard. He spoke of consulting trips to Chicago. From Thursday to Saturday, the consulting trips happened. But he didn't go to Chicago. He went back to Bloomington to a woman named Donna Hewins. Donna was a waitress at a topless bar where Brankel had spent many nights. She was his Bonnie. He had told her the truth or a version of it. What would you think of me if I told you I rob banks for a living? He asked her one night, watching a movie. I would still love you. She had replied. It was the answer a narcissist dreams of. Soon, Donna wasn't just his girlfriend. She was his driver. She sat in the black BMW, the engine running, listening to the police scanner, while David went inside to work. Brankel's motivation wasn't just money. It was a deep, festering need to prove everyone wrong. His mother had told him he couldn't even mow the lawn right. He wanted to be the most successful bank robber in history. He wanted to be a genius. He didn't realize that in the world of crime, genius is just another word for hasn't been caught yet. Chapter 5, The Crack in the Mirror. Back in California, the walls were closing in on Gerald Barnbaum. After Rick D'Alessandro's discovery, the police moved in. On August 8, 1980, Barnbaum was arrested. The charge was murder, or at least, the closest they could get, manslaughter. The prosecutor, James and Wright, knew they had him on practicing medicine without a license, but that was a slap on the wrist. He wanted justice for John Mackenzie. He wanted the jury to see the man behind the masked actor who had traded a man's life for a role. Barnbaum pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 3 years. The real Dr. Gerald Barnes, the surgeon from Stockton, thought the nightmare was over. I was satisfied, he said. I thought this was the end of the problem. He didn't understand the nature of a parasite. A parasite doesn't stop because it's removed. It just looks for a new host. 18 months later, Barnbaum was released for good behavior. He walked out of the prison gates, looked at the horizon, and did the only thing he knew how to do. He went to a different city. He bought a new lab coat. He applied for a new job. "Hello," he said to the clinic manager in Los Angeles, flashing that brilliant, engaging smile. "I'm Dr. Gerald Barnes. I'm looking for a position as a medical director. And because the medical world was built on trust, because no one checked the fingerprints of a man who looked the part, he was hired. Again, and again, and again. By 1996, he was making a 6-figure salary. He was married to a beautiful woman named Lisa Roberts. He had flowers delivered to her. He took her to concerts. He promised her children. I didn't know his real name. Lisa would later sob. I didn't know his real age. I didn't know if anything I knew about him was true. For Lisa, the man she loved was a savior. For the FBI, he was a ghost they had been chasing for 20 years. And for the 100 FBI agents who had gone to him for their mandatory physical exams, he was a ticking time bomb of liability. The fraud was so perfect that even the Bureau had hired him to check the health of their own men. The irony was a bitter pill that the FBI was about to swallow. Chapter 6, Operation Intercept. In 2002, Detective Larry Duncan of the Louisville Metro Police was staring at a map of the tri-state area. He was chasing a ghost of his own. The Interstate Bank Mart bandit had hit 35 banks. $136,000 was gone. The notes were always the same. The disguise, the fishing hat, and the mustache was becoming legendary in the robbery offices of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. He's using the interstates, Duncan muttered. He's using the same logic I used to find him. Duncan teamed up with Detective Joe Schley from Ohio and Agent Freihofer from the FBI. They formed the IBM task force. They analyzed the patterns. They realized the bandit always headed north toward Indianapolis after a hit. Safe zone, Duncan said. He thinks Indiana is home base. In September 2003, they set the trap. Operation Intercept. They put undercover detectives as tellers in 5 perfect target banks in Louisville. They had 1,200 officers on alert. They were waiting for the black BMW. On September 6th, the call came. He hit U.S. Bank. He's on the move. The radio crackled. Operation Intercept. Operation Intercept. Duncan's heart soared. They had him. They had the roadblocks. They had the spotters. But Brinkle was listening. He had a scanner. He heard the shouted command. he saw the first cruiser pull onto the ramp. Instead of heading for the interstate, he veered onto a side road, winding through a residential neighborhood, disappearing into the suburban sprawl. He slipped through the noose. Duncan sat in his car, the silence of the radio mocking him. "We blew it," he whispered. "He's gone." But Brankel was getting sloppy. His narcissism was making him feel invincible. He began to believe his own press. He wasn't just a robber anymore. He was a character in a movie of his own making. And in movies, the villain always makes one final, arrogant mistake. Chapter 7, The Collision. December 29th, 2003. Bloomington, Indiana. Detective Kevin Hill was driving down Highway 45, his mind on the upcoming New Year's holiday. Suddenly, a black BMW screamed past him, cutting him off and nearly sending his Ford Taurus into oncoming traffic. "Are you kidding me?" Hill growled, flipping on his lights. The BMW didn't pull over immediately. It slowed, weaving slightly, before finally coming to a stop a quarter-mile down the road. Hill approached the driver's side. The man inside was middle-aged, looking stressed. "License and registration," Hill said. The driver fumbled. I don't have it on me. "We're okay, though. We're just in a rush." "Show me your hands," Hill commanded. The driver showed his left hand. His right hand stayed hidden, tucked down by his leg. "Show me your other hand." Hill drew his weapon. Now, the driver looked Hill in the eye. It wasn't the look of a scared citizen. It was the look of a man who had nothing left to lose. "We're okay," the man said again. Then he slammed the car into drive and floored it. The chase hit 100 miles per hour. The BMW was a precision machine, leaving the police cruiser in the dust. Brankel drove like a demon, disregarding stop signs, weaving through intersections, until he finally vanished into the back roads of Vincennes. But he had left something behind. In his haste to flee, a wallet had slid off the passenger seat and onto the road during the initial stop. Inside was an Indiana driver's license. Name, David Brankel. The hunt was over. The IBM bandit had a name. Chapter 8, The Unmasking. When the police surrounded the house at 1919 Hickory in Vincennes, they found the black BMW in the garage. Brankel tried to run one last time. He abandoned his young son in the car and fled on foot, sprinting through an apartment complex. He tripped over a curb, the dignity of the impeccable businessman vanishing as he face-planted into the grass. As Sergeant Winkler cuffed him, a small knife fell out of Brankel's pocket. It just fell out. Brankel stammered, "I wasn't going to use it." Later, in the interrogation room, the bravado returned. He looked at Larry Duncan and Joshly. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He asked for an audience. "You guys are good," he said, leaning back. "I'm the IBM bandit. Call Louisville. Call Cincinnati. They'll want to talk to me." For 6 hours, he talked. He told them about the 43 robberies. He told them about Donna. He told them about the Sperrys and the Logans, the people whose lives he had dismantled while pretending to build their businesses. In another prison, 1,000 miles away, Gerald Barnbaum was also sitting in a cell. He was older now, 74, still claiming he was a doctor, still insisting that his patients loved him. Two men, one stole names, one stole money. Both stole the sense of safety from everyone they touched. As Phil Sperry would later say, if that man had used his intelligence to do good instead of evil, he could have accomplished great things. But for the actor and the bandit, the applause was more important than the truth, and the curtain had finally, irrevocably, fallen. Epilogue: the cost of the play. The tragedy of the imposter isn't just the crime itself. It's the wake of broken trust left behind. John Mackenzie's daughter grew up without a father because a man wanted to play doctor. Lisa Roberts lost years of her life to a marriage that was a legal fiction. The Logans lost their life savings to a consultant who used his son as a prop for a con. In the end, Gerald Barnbaum and David Brankel were architects. They didn't build buildings or save lives. They built mazes of mirrors designed to hide the hollow space where a soul should have been. And as the interstate stretches out into the dark and the clinic doors lock for the night, the world is a little more careful, a little more cynical, because we now know that sometimes the man smiling at you, the man holding the stethoscope or the business contract, is just waiting for his next cue. End of part 1. Shadows of the Self. The Chronicles of American Deception. Prologue. The Fragility of a Name. Identity is a ghost. We spend our lives building it brick by brick, document by document, convinced that the plastic cards in our wallets and the digital footprints we leave behind are solid ground. We believe our names belong to us. We are wrong. In the early 2000s, across the rugged landscapes of Colorado and the quiet, manicured lawns of suburban Illinois, two different kinds of predators were proving just how easily that ghost could be kidnapped. One was a frantic, neon-lit underworld of addiction and forgery. The other was a cold, calculated phantom with striking blue eyes. This is the story of the lives they shattered and the hunters who refused to stop. Chapter 1: The Saturday Shock. The Colorado sun was a deceptive thing. It shone brightly over the asphalt of the Denver suburbs, promising a peaceful Saturday afternoon. Virginia Dissett gripped the steering wheel of her car, her mind drifting to her upcoming chiropractic appointment. It was a mundane chore, the kind of weekend errand that defined a stable, suburban life. The blue lights in her rearview mirror were a sudden, jarring intrusion. Virginia sighed, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. She looked at her speedometer. Speeding. Fine. Just a ticket, she thought. She pulled over to the shoulder, the gravel crunching beneath her tires. She reached for her registration, preparing her polite citizen's smile for the officer. But when the officer approached, His hand didn't rest loosely on his belt. His face was a mask of professional grimness. Virginia Dissett, he asked, his voice flat. Yes, officer. I'm sorry. I was just headed to. Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Keep your hands where I can see them. The smile died on her lips. A cold needle of dread pricked at the base of her spine. Is there a problem? There is a warrant out for your arrest, Virginia. Felony forgery. Virginia let out a short, hysterical laugh. No, you're joking. You have the wrong person. I don't think so. Ma'am, turn around and put your hands behind your back. The metallic click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound she had ever heard. It was the sound of her world snapping shut. As she was led to the back of the cruiser, the neighbors watched, their eyes filled with the silent, judgmental curiosity that turns a victim into a criminal in the court of public opinion. At the county jail, the reality set in with the smell of floor wax and stale sweat. They stripped her of her dignity along with her personal belongings. The orange jumpsuit felt like a shroud. I haven't done anything, she whispered to the concrete walls of her cell. 2 months prior, a thief had broken into her car and snatched her wallet. To Virginia, it had been a nightmare of canceled credit cards and a lost driver's license. To the thieves, it had been a master key. They hadn't just stolen her money, they had stolen her face. As she watched other women, some shaking from withdrawal, others hardened by years of the system being hauled off in shackles, Virginia realized the system didn't care about the truth. It cared about the paperwork. And the paperwork said Virginia Dissett was a felon. Chapter 2. The Architect and the Addict. While Virginia sat in a cell, the man responsible for her misery was miles away, fueled by a chemical fire that never went out. Michael Schreckingist lived in a house that was less a home and more a fortress of paranoia. Cameras were hidden in the trees, mounted on the roof, and angled at the backyard. Inside, the air was thick with the acidic tang of methamphetamine and the ozone smell of high-end laser printers. Schreckingist was the top dog. In the hierarchy of the Denver underworld, he wasn't a common street thug. He was a technician, a logistics manager for a loose-knit army of 40 addicts. Beside him sat Tammy Carroll. In another life, Tammy might have been a graphic designer or a suburban mother. Now, her skin was pale, her eyes darting with the frantic energy of a 3-day binge. Look at this one, Tammy muttered, holding up a check. It looked perfect. The watermark, the routing numbers, the weight of the paper, it was a masterpiece of deception. Whose name? Schreckingist asked, not looking up from his computer screen. Dissett. Virginia Dissett. We got the ID, the social, the banking statement. It's a gold mine. Schreckingist nodded. Print 5. Make sure the tellers won't blink. And tell Roberta to put on the wig. We need her to look exactly like the photo. This was the meth identity theft nexus. It was a symbiotic relationship. The drug provided the hyperfocus and the stamina to spend 20 hours a day digging through trash bins, intercepting mail, and manipulating software to create counterfeit documents. The identity theft provided the cash thousands of dollars a week to buy more meth. Tammy remembered her first time, the rush of walking into a bank with a dead woman's name and walking out with $1,000 in crisp bills. It was a high better than the needle. I had gotten addicted to the game, she would later tell herself, using somebody else's name, being somebody else for 10 minutes. It made me feel powerful, but the power was an illusion. Underneath the counterfeit checks and the wigs was a rotting core. Tammy's children were in foster care. Her house was a wreck. Her soul was being traded, one forged signature at a time. Chapter 3, The Red Flag. The operation was simple, yet devastatingly effective. They called it the mail run at 3 in the morning, while the rest of Denver slept. Shrekkingists' foot soldiers drifted through the residential neighborhoods like ghosts. They looked for the red flags, the tiny metal levers on mailboxes that signaled a bill was ready to be picked up. To a normal person, a bill was a nuisance. To Tammy, it was a blueprint. Inside those envelopes were account numbers, signatures, and credit limits. One morning, they hit the jackpot. A convenience check from a credit card company sent to a woman with a $25,000 limit. Shrekkingist's eyes gleamed when he saw it. "We're going big," he said. "I want that Harley Davidson." Using a stolen identity, he walked into a dealership. He was commanding. He was charming. He wore a suit that masked the sores on his arms. He presented the counterfeit check for $17,000. The salesman, blinded by the commission, barely glanced at the ID. Shrekkingist rode out of the lot on a brand new motorcycle, the wind in his face, feeling invincible. He was a man with 40 names and no soul. Chapter 4, The Hunter. Detective Jim Rock didn't like ghosts. He liked facts. He liked paper trails. And he liked seeing the look on a criminal's face when the trail ended at their front door. Rock had been tracking the cassette checks for months. He had seen the surveillance footage, women in wigs, oversized sunglasses, acting the part of the suburban housewife. He knew it was a ring. He knew it was meth. "They're getting sloppy," Jim, his partner, said, tossing a folder onto his desk. A teller in Denver caught one. A guy named Michael Shrekkingist tried to use an ID for a Benjamin Bryce Taiwan Kim. The ID was so bad it looked like it was printed on a cereal box. Rock leaned back in his chair. "Shrekkingist, he's the one with the cameras in the trees, right? That's him." Rock decided to play a different game. He didn't just want an arrest. He wanted to break them. He began driving by Shrekkingist's house every day. He would stop, get out of his car, and stare directly into the hidden cameras. He would bang on the door, knowing they were inside, watching him on the monitors, their hearts racing with chemical-induced paranoia. "I'm here, Michael," Rock's silence screamed. "And I'm not going away." The pressure began to crack the ring. Tammy Carroll was the first to fall. She was caught purchasing stolen IDs from a police informant. When Rock sat across from her in the interrogation room, he didn't see a criminal mastermind. He saw a broken woman. "Where are your kids?" "Tammy," Rock asked softly. That was the breaking point. The tears came, hot and fast, washing away the mask of the forger. She told him everything. She told him about the mail, the printers, the Harley, and the man who thought he could outrun the law on a stolen bike. Chapter 5. The Phantom of Wheaton. While the Denver ring was loud, messy, and fueled by drugs, a different kind of terror was gripping the suburbs of Chicago. Wheaton, Illinois, was a place of safety. It was the kind of town where people left their back doors unlocked. But since 2002, a shadow had been moving through the morning mist. They called him the Wheaton Bandit. He was a ghost with striking blue eyes. He didn't need meth. He didn't need an army. He needed a tactical hood, a police scanner, and a handgun. August 28, 2003, 6:30 a.m. Jennifer, a teller supervisor, arrived at the Wheaton Bank. The air was crisp. She heard a sound the snap of a twig in the bushes near the drive-up ATM. Her instincts, honed by years of suburban caution, flared. "Hurry!" she hissed to the teller behind her. They scrambled inside. Jennifer slammed the heavy glass door and turned the lock just as a figure emerged from the bushes. He was tall, dressed in dark tactical gear, a balaclava